that part of yourself that was wounded or hurt or felt abandoned or neglected or whatever it might be, that part of you that kind of was just like shoved away it now feels welcome to come back to the party. And it feels welcome to be seen again.
What sets today's guest apart isn't just her gift to feel what others can't express. It's her unwavering devotion to help others release trauma, reclaim their voice, and rise into the version of themselves they were always meant to be. If you ever felt that nudge, that your soul came here for more, Bree is the person that will help you walk back home to yourself. Welcome to, don't cry. Welcome to Next Level Bliss, Bree.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Thank
it kind
you,
of cheered
thank
me
you.
up.
I don't think I've been able to explain to anyone what I do in a way that you just did. Thank you. Thank you for that so much. I'm excited for today's conversation. I felt that resonance and kindred spirit aspect right away too.
I think it's going to be real. Pray that it touches a lot of people. And I didn't want to have too many notes because I really want it to be something real and raw and come from the heart. And I believe that God, the divine, the universe is going to give us everything that we need to talk about today for our listeners.
Absolutely. It's just going to show up all along the way.
Yes, so Bree, this platform, Next Level Bliss, is about rediscovering who we are. You know, in Bliss, it's being, love, is success and service. Was there a time in your life that you did feel disconnected to who your truth is?
Yes, many. I would even say there's different periods of my life where I had, I'll say, dulled my soul's eminence and my soul's expression and my soul's voice. And, I came into the world, I would say, very in tune with my gifts. They were very much active, very much on. But throughout my childhood and then my adolescence and then my early adulthood, I learned that my gifts, or I processed the learning that my gifts weren't safe to express. So I bottled everything up and, played the role that I thought was going to be palatable to everyone around me. And it was palatable to everyone around me. But in 2021, 2022 was when the voice of my soul got so loud and so powerful and so, I would say, all consuming, that those voices of my ego that were saying I had to stay in my corporate role, I couldn't even acknowledge them as real anymore because they weren't true to me anymore. So I just I knew I was going down a path of, I'm completely changing my life, where I'm not going to do the way I thought I would live my life. And this was at the age of 35. So I heard many voices from spirit telling me I was going to be a healer, telling me I was going to lead groups through their awakening, telling me I was going to create art that would shift the energetic field of someone. And I was told all of these things, but at first I was just like, that seems like a lot. And I don't know how any of that's going to be possible. And I actually started opening my gifts again by painting. I hadn't painted my whole life other than like childhood, arts and crafts. And those paintings, I just started to connect to myself again. And then I knew I was going to be a healer in some capacity, but at first I thought I was going to just be a coach. So in 2021 is when I started training to be an energetic coach, which I still do. And I love it. I love it very much.
You said that you felt guided and spiritually connected as a child. Like, what did that look like?
I didn't know how to connect with anyone because what I was experiencing was so different than what I saw others experiencing. So for example, with my mediumship gift, when there would be spirits that would come and they would want to translate their message to the people I was with. And if I tried to share that, it was typically greeted with some sort of judgment, some sort of denial, some sort of, even the format of this where I was kind of called names for it. So I was called names for it. I was judged for it. And my parents growing up were they were both working in the church. They were very open minded, but that sort of thing was still very no.
Yeah.
You're not allowed. And I would also go to church and I would see things in the space in the church. And so I would say that, and I would have different, community leaders, or it always just felt like whenever I expressed what I was actually feeling and sensing, the person that I was with that I saw as an authority or saw someone as someone I loved or that I respected or looked up to, I saw the way they looked at me for that. And I would just, oh, okay. And so I learned very early on what to share and what not to share. So it's not as if the gifts ever really went away. It was just that I trained myself very thoroughly to not let anyone know what I was experiencing, which was very isolating, and very lonely.
Yeah, so you trained yourself to fit into the world around you, fit
Hmm.
their mold,
Exactly.
fit their mold.
Exactly.
And so when your intuition, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but something was telling you that you were going to shift and take a different path. But you're corporate, right? You're
Mhm.
in the masculine energy, trudging along, being successful, creating the American dream. What were you like confused at some point? Because in my head I'm like, oh my gosh, like that is a big shift.
It is a big shift. It was, I would say it was a 6 month period so it was basically, when I was in the corporate world and I had this, I'll say dream or idea present itself. It felt so good. I knew it was coming, but in my mind, I thought, okay, well, that's, maybe 5, 10 years down the line. And I was very blessed in that I was working with Mandy Morris and who Oliver Nino trained me in energy healing, and Mandy Morris trained me in my integration coaching modalities. They were all about, you know, allowing your higher self to come through and sort of show you the way and show you the steps. And so that was when I started accessing the Akashic records and saying, I would like to access my higher self consciousness and see. I knew I was here to serve. I always knew my whole life, I would say, I'm here to serve in some capacity. I'm here to serve. I'm here. And I also knew I was here to lead. So once those pieces started to click together of how I was going to be doing that, what I did was I told my employer, I said, I can only work part-time. And luckily, my employer wanted me to stay so bad that they were like, well, whatever your hours want to be, we'll keep your salary the same. So it was very enticing, right? I know. So it was very enticing, but I did that for maybe a month and a half. And the calling within me to just share my gifts was so loud. And I was already serving clients,
Mm-hmm.
just a few, but that was where I was lit up. And so after experiencing that, being lit up in that, going back to my corporate job felt agonizing. It felt like torture. And it got to it went up, so it was like the first 3 months was like, oh, it's an idea, oh, this is a maybe, or this is a something that could happen. And then the second 3 months, it was like, no, this is going to happen and it's going to happen now. And here you go, kind of time to push you into the field. But I did go, this is probably gonna resonate with some people watching this, where I did go nearly 2.5 years where the money was not showing up. Like the money was not matching what I had in my masculine manifesting. I was like, I'm gonna make $250,000 right off the bat, and and I had so many high hopes, and I believed in myself. So I was like, I'm gonna make this happen. But it was a journey of me learning and evolving, and I also find that part of the reason I went through that was because I needed to realize that I didn't need the material. And that I also needed to very much prove to myself in a way that I'm doing this for the right reasons. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because It's my passion.
Yeah, that's so hard also because we're so programmed to seek that success. And I love the imagery a little bit about when you're on the top of a mountain and you're about to embark on a new journey and you know you need to go that way. You know the things, but you don't know what's beyond. Like you can't even see the first step. It hasn't even formed yet, but you have to take the step off the cliff for the step to form and to know what it's going to look like. And this is so hard because when you're stepping into a reality that isn't fully formed yet, all you have is some dream about it and taking that step forward. You know, when kids go to college and they get a corporate job and stuff, they understand what those steps look like. They have been formed. They're laid out. It's a perfectly laid out path. But this work is not. And most times, following your intuition, following your dreams is not a well laid out path. And you don't know what those steps look like. And you have to take them in faith and let that step form as you take action on it.
Absolutely. So I do some trance channeling where I have my guides fully come through me. And one of the things they started saying right off the bat was follow the breadcrumb trail. You're not going to know exactly what you were just very similar to what you were just saying, which is you're going to get the next step when it's available. You're going to get the next step when it's available. And
Yeah.
it invites you to trust and surrender in a way that nothing else can.
Yeah, and I keep coming back to the word intuition. I feel like there's a lot of like when you were examining yourself and taking note on how each job made you feel, isn't that intuition? And can you speak more about that?
Absolutely. So when I was hearing you just say that, I was seeing how we have many different types of intuition. So our body almost has an intuition of its own that will really guide us more so in the material in the earth plane. And then we have the intuition, I would say, of almost the soul, that subtle, it's almost a quiet intuition. It's an intuition that you can only access by consistency. So you're continuing to tune in when you're feeling really frustrated and really down on yourself. Tune in when you're feeling really confident and really like you know what you're doing. It's that showing up to it again and again and again, because I find that when we're hearing the voice of ourself that is true intuition, it's God-led intuition. It's, source streamed guidance.
Yes.
That kind of intuition is going to be something that typically will challenge our ego the most. So, what my guides are actually just showing me right now, how our ego can only know, and they're referencing Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, how the ego can only know what it knows. It can only know the experiences that have taken place already, and it can't know, just like we're talking about, that dream that's going to be completely, it's on another level, it's in another frequency than our past was. For us to step into that, it is going to be, it's veil by veil. So it's when you're learning to trust your intuition again, and I work with my clients on this at length, but I always guide to tune into, if you feel like you lack intuition in any area or direction in any area, it's good to tune in a little bit finer. So it's good to tune into, well, what is my heart saying about this? What is my head saying about this? What is my body saying about this? Even I often guide to do automatic writing, because when you've got just pen and paper, you're everything's going through your heart and then out your arm, basically. And so the mind chatter, like the stuff that says, well, maybe we shouldn't, and maybe blah, 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 it can't really get in the way because it's just a pure stream. So, and then the other thing that always comes up about intuition is consistency. My guides say it again and again. They always say, no one's missing anything at all. The only thing that they're not doing is consistently listening to their soul or intending to. So that's sometimes the only missing piece is, are you intending to hear the voice of your soul or to hear the guidance of spirit or whatever wording you want to use. But when you keep showing up to it, and keep tuning in, you'll start to find some consistency. You'll see where your soul really is guiding. And
Yeah.
I'm also seeing that those that you serve are these light bulbs. They're showing me like light bulbs that are turning on, and then there's like forces outside that say don't turn on, and you're the one to go in there and say no, turn it on. You can
I
turn it
hope
on.
so. I hope I have lots of light bulbs turning on.
Yes.
As you were speaking, I was thinking about, the consistency part. And I think it's just human nature that when we begin to wake up, it's sometimes a slow process. I feel like my wake up journey was probably 10 years or so. Like ever since I started having, maybe my whole life, I've been trying to wake up.
It's the whole
Yeah, and but I think human nature is that we kind of weave in and out of our programming and our soul's light, and our programming and divine guidance, and our program, and that programming is safe, so to speak. It's safe and it's not safe. It's where we feel the most pain, the most hurt, the most trauma, the most heartache, yet the divine guidance is pure love, and we're scared to go there because the pain is safer. The programming is safer. You know what you're getting.
You're talking to so many important things. I was seeing was like what you were saying, where we go in and out. One of the things I see most often is that we have this, as a human, we have this misperception that we think we're afraid of our darkness, but we're really afraid of our light, because it's like I talked about with earlier in life. Like when I was shining that light, there was people that were repelled by it. There was people that were irritated by it. So you learn to dim it. But it's only through allowing it to emanate, allowing it to, move really through and out from us, that we can be in that intuitive zone where it feels safe. And it also, I'm seeing too, where with the programming, once we know it's there, it's like we might want to avoid it. But the truth is, like, it's good that we know it was there, because at least then it gives us some mental we can have a construct, an understanding, a self understanding of why, we can understand why we got off path. So it's helpful to know when the programming, and my guides say this too, is if we don't know of our programming, it's just going to drive us from the unknown. So it'll keep, your programming will always affect you, but we can't do anything about it until we know it's there. So that's why it's some of the work I do with my clients is the voice within them that wants to like avoid the issue or bypass or whatever. I'm kind of like, no, well, okay, let's actually listen to this part of you, because this part of you is there for a reason. So we have to figure out, what does this part of you want? What is this part of you trying to communicate? How does this part of you feel? Because once it gets acknowledged, it's like, oh, what? And I often see, because I have clairvoyance and claircognizance, so I'll often see little closets, like versions of us in all these different ages, and we'll sometimes go through and find the different uh, parts of us that have been locked away in our own psyche, and kind of just open the door and say, hey, or come on, it's okay, like come on out here, it's good, it's good. It's a lot of inner child work too that helps us get there, because it's so I work with people on the chakras, and my guides have recently showed me how the chakras get programmed throughout our life, and our root chakra at our base is sort of put together and shaped from 0 to 7. So that's why whenever you hear a coach talk about getting to the root, and sometimes it's like almost embarrassingly obvious. It's like, oh, we have to work on the root chakra, the part of me that doesn't feel safe. Oh, okay, like, all right. Because what I see a lot is like this energetic of, I can feel that you've got this high level of emotional intelligence, and so to balance that, we have to like work through all these different layers of us at once. And it's a complex movement, but it's allowing all of our light too. They're showing me like all of our light to emanate. So when we can just like turn the little places on within us back on from that center point, we kind of shine like a rainbow. It's like all of us.
So we develop or clog up, rather say, that root chakra, from birth till 7.
Exactly. And I was just seeing one of the affirmations I did really early on was telling myself I'm safe, but in every chakra. Because my root chakra was the one that needed the most, I would say, work. And so I would say, like, the different, like for my throat, I had to say I am safe to express like a lot of times because what was missing it wasn't that, in my mind, I thought I just didn't have anything to express.
Mm.
But it was more that I didn't feel the safety to express it. So it was almost like my root chakra was what allowed me my root was almost telling each one of my chakras that it was safe again. And especially with like the sight type gifts where you have more of a sight connection to spirit, I'm safe to see. I'm safe to know this, or I'm safe to um but with gifts opening up like this, sometimes you'll get a lot of information and you're kind of like, what do I do with this? That was me for like the first 2 years. I was like, what do I act on? And
So it just makes so much sense that you didn't feel safe because that was your childhood experience, that you would express those parts of yourself and you had to tuck it away to fit in life and with society. So telling yourself and healing that root chakra and letting it feel safe and go through all the chakras to feel safe. But what was interesting to me is that you felt like you didn't have information to share, but it's almost like until you felt safe, it didn't allow that pathway for it to come through.
right. And it's because like that, it's like it comes from us, like it comes from our center, because we're here in these bodies, like we're the connection, we're like the portal or the bridgeway from spirit. And so it's coming like from within us. So it makes sense that when we don't feel safe, we just think it's not there. And sometimes too, when we realize we have access to things, it's like we're like kids in candy shops. It's like I can get any kind of information. So that's a process too. But no matter what the ego might present to us, our soul or our higher self or our oversoul or however you want to call this, the most real part of us, always will have uh the most power and the most presence. So it can't be what I'm seeing is a lot of people will think that if they shut down their gifts, that they can't re-access them, and that's the furthest from the truth. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how old you are or what chapter of life you are or how many boxes you think you've checked. You always have access, even if you've limited it.
And you have a lot of beautiful gifts that you have access to, but we're you're not and I'm not saying this in a bad way. You're not any more special than anybody else. We
Exactly.
all have access, right?
Exactly. We all do.
So
We
tell me
all
more about like the Akashic records and why would one what are they and why would one want to have access to these records?
So everyone has access to the Akashic records. It's really important that that be known. And the Akashic records, what I'm seeing right now is that so our DNA, these long, double heel, they're like strings of energy. We all have this connection to our Akashic records through our DNA. So it's not something again that's inaccessible. And it's something that you're going to find through your body and through your breath and through your presence with it and through your the other thing too that I find with Akashic records is once you know that they exist, there's this quantum container, I'll say, or quantum record or quantum realm of our soul that will encompass everything, all of us, all our connections, all our experiences, all our embodiments, all of everything.
So it's a
Which
database.
I sense it. So I sense the Akashic records that I visit in the seventh realm, or the seventh dimension, the seventh density. It's almost like it's like a quantum computer in a sense, but it feels more like a library to me. There's many places within it. So each of the people that I serve, I'll get a different clairvoyant view of it. So sometimes we'll go and the person that I'm working with will typically see something similar. So sometimes we get taken up to a place where we have like a table in front of us of the person's guides, and they'll all be sitting there kind of waiting to share their thing that they want to share. Sometimes it's more of just like a garden. Sometimes it feels like a garden where it's much more, it's almost a natural realm with flowers and trees and things like that. It'll look and feel to us whatever is going to be most palatable to us in the moment. So it meets you where you are. It's not always going to be the same, you know, look, I'll say, but it will always be the same feel or energy. It's going to feel like truth. So
Okay.
so what happens with my clients a lot is they'll come with like, 15 questions that all kind of came from their ego. And then we get to the Akashic field, and all of a sudden those questions kind of dissolve, and I find that their questions will typically change because now they're accessing more of a pure connection to themselves.
Uh-huh.
So it's not anything that isn't us. It's just a way of connecting to more of us.
Okay. And so, like, what kind of information do they receive from the records if it's not ego based? Like, so explain a little bit about, like, what were the questions they came with, and then what were the answers and knowledge and information they left?
Oh, yes. So oftentimes they'll come with questions like, should I be with this person? Or should I quit this job?
Is he
Or
gonna come back to me?
it's something like that. Or should I be living here? It's usually something that's very actionable, like an action that they are not sure that they should take, but they feel is close. Which isn't, it's not too bad. It's not far away from the soul. But when we get to the records, it's typically more so questions of, now that I can feel and know what my purpose is, what is my next step? Or I'll hear them asking, sometimes things will get presented that, so my guides will typically present it in like books. And so sometimes they'll send through a book about, their teenage years. And for some reason, when we access that like teenage aspect of themselves, new questions will emerge because they'll be deeper questions. They'll be closer to. So, what my guides are showing me is when we always have the option of going in a unified field or doing what our soul feels integrated in doing, or splitting off. So, a part of us goes, well, I'm sensing this, message from spirit, and I want to share it with this person. And then you share it, and then you hear the thing against it, and a part of you splits. A part of you goes, like, I shouldn't be this way, or I shouldn't do this thing. A part of you kind of goes away from your truth. The main thing that happens is they become empowered to answer it themselves.
Mm.
And I think that's the most important part, is that even with working with our guides, we're not giving our power away to our guides. we're When we're going to our guides for assistance or guidance, they're always going to be, at least the true guides, are going to be guiding us within. It's very therapist esque, but they'll basically do things that true guides will never disempower you. They'll show you what you might be missing in the equation or what you might have forgotten, but they're not there to, and the Akashic Records isn't there to tell you what your life will be. It's there to realign you to what's truly you, what's authentic, what's very, very soulful and can't be delineated from itself. It can't be split from itself.
Yeah, so they might show you something that happened in the past, say your teenage years, that reveals to you maybe an aspect of your life you need to let go of, or a perception of your life you need to let go. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, yes. Or even just allowing it to be seen, allowing it to be known is what sets it free.
Gotcha.
So once it has the ability to be aired out, it no longer becomes a hindrance. Now it's hard to sometimes go into, sometimes it's like even seeing it, the ego is like, well, we don't want to see it. We don't want to see it. But then once it's seen, it's everything sort of softens and loosens up. And then you reintegrate that part of yourself. So like that part of yourself that was wounded or hurt or felt abandoned or neglected or whatever it might be, that part of you that kind of was just like shoved away is now, it now feels welcome to come back to the party. And it feels welcome to be seen again. So
That's so good. So good. One of the tools that I used in my own healing was when I would look at those parts of myself that were wounded, I would tell myself that's not me.
mm,
I'm not wounded. I'm whole. And, so I tell myself that's not me, but who am I instead? And I feel like, people ask me like how do you heal yourself? How do you find your truth? And I'm just like, you ask.
ask and ask and ask and ask
You
and
just
ask.
ask.
You got to ask. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's the simplest thing, but it is the thing that people forget. I think it's important for people to have that moment where they do think they need to ask someone else about their intuition or ask someone else about what their perspective is, because it makes them realize that I've already, I actually don't. This is a question I can ask of myself. And I would even encourage everyone to remember that your questions are powerful. Your questions have meaning. Almost your questions that come through you are going to be way more powerful than some of the answers that come through you. So, and then again, it's like that reminder I'm getting of automatic writing where those questions we want to ask of others, let's try asking on our own and then sit with our guide or the person that we feel is going to help us. It's really important that we remember that we're the one doing the self healing in all times. And then for when you do want to work with others, it's remembering that they're going to be able to potentially see things that you have hidden from yourself so that you can. But it's always about, I'm always reminding of that no matter what, no matter what people take away from you or take away from me or take away from any sit like this, it's still going to be you when you walk away from it that makes those small changes or starts seeing through different lenses or starts taking a little bit new direction, or it's always the person that walks away and actually can implement it in their life that's going to get value from it.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I believe, like you were saying, going to somebody for maybe a psychic reading or to tell you information you don't feel like you have access to is can be helpful. And I've done it. Like I do love it. I love going to a psychic. But I just had the thought that it's really about exposing yourself to that energetic space,
Yes.
exposing yourself to that energetic space where they're holding this container of love. They're holding this container of fluidity between us and other realms, other information, the divine. And just for a moment, experiencing what that's like. I hope people have that with this, with Next Level Bliss. And I know that I get it also from watching other people's content. Like I will watch, I don't know if you know Next Level Soul.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I watch a lot of his stuff and the near death experience stories and so forth. And when I'm watching them, often when I'm listening to the story, I'm fully invested, but then there's a part of me that is somewhere else in receiving information. And so a lot of times I'll
Remembering.
get my notebook out and I'll just start writing. Just start writing all the stuff that's coming to me. And I just feel like it's almost like me listening to the inner in participating in the energy of that show allows me to start participating in my own energy exchange. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's I'm being shown like plugs. So it's like when we're witnessing when you're witnessing this show right now, when you're seeing two people that are plugged in to their divine pillar of light, whatever you want to call this, their flow of their soul, it's going to open up gateways for you. It's going to open up so that with an aha, this comes up a lot. an aha. It's called an aha because it's something that it feels new, but it also feels remembered. So it feels there's a familiarity to it. And it's because it's these we all have this like eternal part of ourselves that can tune in from a very, very pure connection. And it's not individuated. It's not me versus you or this versus that. It has the ability to universally see. So though I love that show too, and I love this show too, by the way. Um, I think that the best way for you to connect to your intuition and your gifts is by inviting yourself to bliss, inviting yourself to freedom, inviting yourself to play, inviting yourself to the unlimited. So it's giving yourself maybe those carved out times in the week where you just let yourself kind of go off into nature and not have a set time, but just walk around, see what you see, feel what you feel, give yourself that distance.
Unplug.
Yes.
Unplug. I say this also to people is that we are energetic beings. And you're talking about the plug analogy. Well, we have to unplug and go into our joy, go into our bliss, unplug from this external, this isn't us. I'm not corporate. I'm not the news. I'm not these things. Unplug from it and get back grounded with who we are. But here's what I've always said is that when you remove an energy from you, like say you're visiting an old childhood wound and you're removing that energy from you and you're saying, that's not me. I'm going to and unplug from that. This isn't part of who I am. Then it's equally, if not more important, to set the intention to let energy move in because there's no empty spots in the ocean, right?
Absolutely.
Like if you scoop water out, water's going to settle back in to that space. The same thing energetically. When we scoop out energy that doesn't serve us, doesn't belong to us, we then have to or need to, I don't know what the word is, to set the intention to allow what it is we do want to come in and make sure that it is loving, kind, nurturing, true to who we are. Can you speak on this a little bit?
Yes. So whatever is removed must be replaced. And that's like a very, very foundational thing to know in energy healing and in self exploration. So anytime that especially when we're doing like that shadow work, especially when we're like visiting the wounds, especially when we're doing the harder things to do, maybe we're crying it out, we're sobbing and we're allowing yourself to, or maybe we're releasing anger or things like that. It's really important that afterwards you allow yourself to fill back up and really set that intention. And maybe you're a visualizer, maybe you're more a sound based person, or maybe you're more of a kinesthetic person, but you want to do something that is going to call in source light and love and this calming lubrication energy that you're going to call upon and fill up in all the spaces that you just did your shadow work or whatever you want to call this on. Because some of my clients that they're in therapy, and what I see happening in the therapy is that the wounds are exposed and focused on, but then they're not filled back up. So then they walk away from the session and it's like walking with them. It's like a cloud that like walks with them. And you have to, especially when you're doing that deep work, the wounding, the shames, the guilts, the fears, all that stuff, you have to fill back up. I love the way you're talking about how you're going to disconnect from this version that got really disempowered or shrunk or, is just deeply in fear and can't act. It's disconnecting and saying, okay, let's love. And it's also, let's give all those parts of ourselves the love that they desired, and say, and send in that love to all those pockets because we're filling it back up. We're filling it back up. So we see it and then we fill it back up. And that's what allows us to stay so nourished in our healing and not feeling depleted by it.
Yeah, I love how you brought up traditional therapy. I think it's so good. But I do see the flaw in it that you are leave feeling lighter because those things, you've shed light on it. You understand where these problems came from, but then intentionally filling it with the things that you want to bring into your life is equally important.
Equally, yes.
Yeah. So you are so talented and so in touch with these these gifts that we all have access to. Tell me, okay, first of all, like, do you have a favorite?
No, I like them all.
And can you tell me more about how you got in tune with your gifts?
I think what I really embrace about my gifts now that I didn't initially is like the being able to tune in more multidimensionally. So it's having this ability to see many different perspectives at once. That's probably my favorite part about it, because even in so I'll like a grounded example, like my kids will be, who are 5 and 8, they'll be having their little spat and they'll be arguing, and I have the ability to really kind of freeze in the moment and kind of zoom out, and I can really see from more of a soul perspective what they're arguing about. So I can really understand, I can understand what it's usually some kind of power. It's usually a power struggle or something about control. I mean, 9 times out of 10. But it at least allows me to then, instead of trying to get myself intermixed in that, or even try to put it end the argument, I sort of just sit and emanate to them the energy that they're looking for, and that is what kind of helps diffuse it and break it down. But I do it much more wordlessly. So what my gifts have really invited me to is all the different ways I can serve, and sometimes that's very just sitting, just
Holding the space.
holding the space. Even, and I even find that, when I'm working one to one, I've had like close to 100, a little over 100 people that I've worked with, and some of them really do need me to spend majority of the session holding space, and that's what they need. It has nothing to do with any of the things that the guides are saying or any of the things that I am saying. I'm just sort of there to, okay, let's plug us in. Let's put the little prompts in here and there, which you're very brilliant at, by the way, but put the little prompts in here and there, allow them to be just flowing. And I find that that's the majority of the people I've served. What I think I've gifted them with is just the freedom to be all of them, just the freedom to be, um, the wounded parts, the not wounded parts, the gifted parts, the parts we don't see as gifted. All of those parts can just be there. And I think that that's all most people, we're just looking for unconditional love.
Yeah, just a judgment-free zone. I thought what you said about parenting your children was absolutely beautiful. So good. Bringing that up, when I was parenting, and I believe it was also the way I was parented, was when you saw an issue happening with your children, you go in and you try to dissect, well, who was wrong? Who was, what did you do?
Yeah.
Smear it with a little shame. Now we're going to have a little punishment. We're going to let this one over here watch you be punished so that they learn a lesson too. And what, don't ever do that because you see all this punishment over here. But I think, and I hope and pray that we can go into a new era. With my spiritual journey, I figured out I don't want to do shame anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want shame to be a part of my life. And I was a parent who I parented with a lot of shame. And I don't feel good about that, but I do know this. You can always shift it. You can
Always.
always start doing it better. And can you speak on this any about like what do you see happening? Like, did you shift your parenting styles?
Oh yes, big time. Big time. Actually, a couple years ago, that was one of my biggest. It was a very profound moment for me, because I was healing a lot of guilt and shame within myself, and I was very much evaluating, um, you know, all the areas where I only have one living parent now, but I still see it today, where it's the guilting and shaming. And so it was really important that I saw that and got to heal that, because that's when I caught myself doing it. I didn't actually know that, and this is going to we have to see it to even know it's there. Otherwise, if we don't even know it's there, we're gonna it's just gonna be part of us. If that's what we were raised with, and that's what we saw, and that's the only way we knew, okay, well, now we can acknowledge, okay, well, that's one way. Okay, well, there's this other one. Like, I actually don't need to guilt and shame. And for me, what it's been for me as a parent is that I just try to see my kids as souls. So I just try to see beyond any of the like, even when like teachers or their friends or anything that's coming up that's like kind of hiccupy or, just not our favorite. I just try to see from the soul and really just try to ask myself, what does their soul need right now? Because their egos are being shaped. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm very conscious of how they're receiving me, while I'm also being the real me. So that's like another thing that I'm doing very differently than my parents did. Was I'm not My parents like hid a lot of things from me and my brother. Like, they just don't talk about it, just don't say, just hide it and don't keep it, and it's a lot of hushed conversations and things like that. Whereas with my kids, I'll just be very much more fully myself all the time. And if they have questions, I answer them, So I think that we're stepping into this new version of ourselves that is just comfortable to be as we are. And so the more that we can just all embody that, the more it's going to keep it's a seed that gets planted, and it'll start to affect everything.
Yeah, yeah, the snowball effect, right? We might need in another podcast revisit this topic again because I feel like it's so important, especially since, from birth to 7 years, that foundation in yourself is rooted. And then we spend our adulthood trying to come back to our truth, right?
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it?
Yes. So as parents with this new who are naturally becoming a little more spiritually awoke, what are the tools? What God, like it's a huge topic. Like how does parenting in the future look like? And how do you handle the conflict in the, molding or not molding the ego of your child? Pain is supposed to be your teacher, and pain is our teacher in a lot of ways. So, how much of do we let life teach our children with pain? Do we help? I don't.
It's definitely, I would say it's an area for me that I am every single moment learning and growing in. It's not something I consider myself to have at any type of like mastery level, but it's something where I feel that it's all about, it's holding space. It's almost the same energetic that is needed for me to show up in sessions. It's the same energetic that my kids need.
Yeah.
It's just I find that what they need from me most is just a non-judgmental ear most of the time. They just need someone to be. My daughter is like a chatterbox. Like, she's just always, always, always. And so I just listen because I know that that's what she needs. Whereas my son, he's a little bit more like me in that he needs his solo time, and he needs his social time, and he needs his creative time, and he needs his decompression time. So it's more so, I think that the new parent, if we're going to say like new human, new parent, the new parent, I feel, is meeting their kids where they are all throughout, and just be willing to listen. It's the thing that I remind myself all the time, which is, again, that they're a soul, like their soul knows the way. So I'm there to maybe help guide it, but I trust them. And I think that that's what helps them the most, is that I trust them and they see that and they feel that. And so that they know they can trust themselves.
That's beautiful. That is so good. Yeah, life's going to kick them in the teeth enough. As parents, hold the space for them to be who they are safely, to trust their soul, to trust Well, Bree, thank you for being so open and honest with us today.